I'm Randy Weston. I'm on Riviera Jazz Club.
Yeah.
I hope I got it right.
Yeah, you go ahead, Alain.
That's what our music about. It's harmony, it's love, it's spirituality. It feels great, but at the same time you realize how much you have to learn about music and the history around music, you know. Well, the difference is, years ago, it was part of the black community. It was the way we lived. We lived the music. And the word jazz didn't happen until 1915. Before that, it was just black music, race music, African-American music, you see. So it's our heritage, it's our way of life, you know. So between that music, the black church, the calypso, being from New York, we lived totally in the African-American community because we couldn't leave the African-American community. So the whole origin of jazz is Africa in the United States. Wonderful, wonderful. There was so much music. U.B. Blake lived not far from my mother's church. Max Roach, Cecil Payne, Duke Jordan. It's just music everywhere. We lived music before I ever played a note. As kids, we would talk about who was better, Coleman Hawkins or Lester Young. You see, it was our way of life. It wasn't just music. It was and it was a music of survival. Because there are many places we couldn't go because of the color of our skin. But it was that music of Duke and Basie and Billie Holiday, the spirituals, who kept us alive, kept us healthy as a people. Well, because music is spirituality. Music began in Africa in the first place. African music is as old as Africa itself. So the whole concept of music came out of Africa. And our ancient ancestors, they were in touch with the universe because the original music comes from the rhythms of the planets, the stars, and whatnot. And Africa being so diverse, being so rich in culture, that's where music began, you see. So me, I try to spend time with traditional people. Traditional with the spiritual, traditional with the blues, traditional, how this music happened. And the further you go back, you're just amazed because our people were taken in slavery, taken to the Western Hemisphere. But wherever we were taken, we created music. Whether you call it bossa nova or samba or jazz or reggae, hip hop, whatever. Because in Africa, music is life itself, you see. So we just, for me, we're just an extension of the great African empires where music was required. Music was just as important as science, as astronomy, as medicine. Music was required. And even growing up in Brooklyn, my mother and father, they're the ones who took us to hear Duke Ellington and Count Basie. They're the ones that make sure we were in a black church every Sunday. So you see, music for us is life itself. No, the piano, man, I'm still learning. The piano, whoa, that instrument I'll be learning forever. That's the king of the orchestra. It's because the piano, you have an orchestra, you have harmony, you have rhythm, you have melody. So the piano for me is the king of the instruments. Yeah, I love it.
Sorry.
Inspiration. I wrote music for my mother, for my father, for my children, for Africa, for the Caribbean. So just life itself inspires me with music. Oh, they never know. It'll be basically my compositions, but with the pulse of Africa, because I want people to understand that this music that we call jazz or blues, whatever, is Mother Africa's contribution, which is left out, you see. And our ancient ancestors, Louis Armstrong, all those people, they had just come from Africa. So everything they did, they approached as African people away from home. So everything is important with spirituality. We had to be in that black church every Sunday to be in touch with the Creator, you see. So all of that is involved. And when you listen to people like Duke and, wow, man, they were so advanced. It's amazing. You got variations of hip hop. You got the gangster hip hop, which is very bad. But the hip hop is just an expression of the young people, what their lives are like. When we grew up, jazz was our story. So young people, because the music was taken out of the schools, See, we grew up, elementary school, you learned music. The music was taken out of school. So the young people had to create. So they created what they call hip-hop. But every generation, we create based upon that particular time. Louis described what happened in 1920, 1930. Duke, 1940 to 50. So hip-hop, but again, I can play with hip-hop musicians because it's the African pulse that connects all the music. That spirit, that rhythm is in their music here. We never know. We never know. It's a mystery. We never know where music is going. But for me, I feel that it's so important to know the history of what you do. And all my life, I studied the music of Africa and studied, when I went to Brazil, I studied the Africans in Brazil. When I go to Cuba, I do the same. When I go to Jamaica, I do the same. When I go to Mississippi, I do the same. So I think this music is so powerful. And there are a lot of young people now playing what they call jazz, but we don't even know. But I think the music is going to come back because it's so powerful and it's so beautiful and so spiritual. And the difference is, for us, our music, I will play for a 3-year-old or a 100-year-old. No such thing as music for the young. The music is for everybody. I think it's going to come around to that. Yeah. Yeah, it's sad. Plus, with the media, we don't exist anymore. The television, all those, we don't exist anymore. You're not going to turn on TV and see Duke Ellington. You're not going to turn on and see Louis Armstrong. You're not going to do that anymore. But we grew up. We go to the movies. In our community, we could go see Bessie Smith. We go see Cab Calloway. And we go to the Apollo Theater, where my mother and father would take us and have a big band, have a comedian, have a gospel. They have dancers. In other words, they would have the whole African-American experience. But now we put in categories. And I tell young people, no, your music is not complete until you can play for all the ages. Because when we grew up, I want to be able for a 3-year-old to hear what I'm doing. And I also want a 100-year-old to hear what I'm doing. And that's what our music is about. It's harmony, it's love, it's spirituality. And that's what Basie and all those people for us, that's what they gave. In addition, to be a musician was not just be able to play. Because today, many are, oh, I'm a star. We're not no stars. A musician, you have to play for hospitals. You have to go to prisons and play. You play for orphans. You play for poor people. In order to be a musician, you have to serve the community. You see, all the giants did that. But today, that's been left out. They feel to be a musician, just be able to play well. No. You can be the greatest virtuoso, but does your music serve the community? Then you're a complete musician, and that's how we grew up. In addition, people like Duke and Basie, those kind of people, we watch the way they dress. Not only do they play great music, but they set the fashion of clothing. And to be a musician, you couldn't go to the market unless your shoes would shine until you were absolutely clean. Because musicians had a very high level because it brought the people together. You see. So the history of what we do is so important. So you got a lot of people today, they play the music, but they don't understand the history of the music. You don't understand the sacrifice, what they had to go through to play this music. Couldn't stay in hotels, couldn't go to a restaurant because of the color of your skin. Couldn't go good here, but they create all this beauty. Take European instruments and put that African spirituality. It's amazing. Amazing what they did. So I'm always studying what happened in the 20s. What happened? When I talk to young people, you want to play this music, go back as far as you can. Understand the history of this music. Then you realize how much we have to learn.
Creative life.
Mom and Pop and the creator. I had nothing to do with it. My Panamanian Jamaican father, my Virginia mama, I'm born in Brooklyn, I don't know. But I think the music was very important because the music was our survival. And like I said to you before, when I was born, I was making music. The children listened to me. My mother, when she carried me, she was listening to music, you see. So I think because music is spirit, music is healing. And from those people who were taken from Africa, taken into slavery, created music that is now universal music. It's amazing. But what they had to go through, those plantation days, they created music by being on the plantation, and they started singing music. They couldn't speak French, they couldn't speak English, they couldn't speak Spanish, they couldn't speak Portuguese. They only had the memory of the language of Africa. But they had that African spirituality, African background, the importance of music. Because in Africa, music is life. It's not just reading notes, it's life. And to be a master, not only play well, but you have to serve the community. You have to give something back to the people. And that's what I grew up in.